Shimasu.
Oshimai.
A few moments of zazen, consciously turning the attention inward. Once you spend some time becoming familiar, intimately connected to your body, your breathing, with a sense of where your mind is at, and being able to settle those things and clarify those things. So once you've tuned in and you're aligning your body, you're aligning your mind and body together, then you also want your awareness to include the out. So we need to turn in to, quote unquote, fix some things, basically get things back in alignment, releasing, opening both the body and the mind. And sometimes you might spend your whole zazen session or your whole meditation session just on the internal. Certainly, that's often the case, that we need that. But eventually, we want to dissolve the distinguishment between inner and outer. And so that awareness expands to include both directions, in and out. So we're equally aware of the inner as the outer, equally aware of the outer as the inner. A nice representation of that is where we notice the sounds on the outside. We don't judge them, we don't react to them, or more precisely, if we do react to them, we just notice our reaction to them. But we're letting sounds be sounds. Well, the thoughts are the inside sounds, inner sounds. So when people are doing meditation, it's fairly straightforward often for people to get the idea that outside sounds, even if they're unpleasant sounds, perhaps at first, honking trucks outside and what have you, but eventually just relate to them as vibration, as sound. They're just sounds. And so you become more equitable. There's more equanimity, less reaction, less personal reaction. Everything becomes equitable. We have a harder time with personal stuff, thoughts and especially feelings. But eventually the thoughts become basically the same as noise. The outer sounds, outer noise. Thoughts are just the inner noise. Thoughts are just the inner furniture. So we become disengaged, less reactive to the inner stuff as well. So noticing the outer sounds and the inner sounds. The outer feelings, your reactions to outer sounds, the inner feelings, your reactions to your thoughts. So your body just becomes another object in your field of awareness. Your thoughts just become objects in your field of awareness. Just like furniture in the room, external room are objects in your field of awareness. External sounds, noises are sound objects in your field of awareness. Everything becomes that same relationship. And eventually, not all the time, but eventually, and even when it does occur, it won't be consistent for a while. That brings you to a state of equanimity, a state of stillness, balance, calmness, and more and more an independent sense of stillness and calmness that is not dependent upon things being quiet on the outside. It's not dependent upon things being quiet on the inside. It becomes a more and more independent and free and true stillness, calmness. So whatever degree of letting go of stuff or letting go of reactions, either to the outside, the inside, whatever degree of letting go of that, whatever little degree of freedom may have been discovered there, take that into your movement as we slowly come up to standing, staying in that nice space. Notice when you leave it, what takes you out of it, and see if you can settle back to that space. You can even imagine you're still sitting there in Zazen to kind of have a remnant of that within you. We'll take that further into movement. Taking a comfortable stance, we'll just shift the weight forward and back. Now we have outside physical movement, but see if you can have that same stillness, calmness, or stillness inside. Even as the outside we appear to be moving and feeling the movement, inside you can stay the same. And we'll just let those arms swing just with natural forces of gravity, momentum, so we're not doing anything. Only thing we're doing is we're pressing to the ground, pressing into the ground, and enjoying a nice open alignment. Eventually you can release those hips. You realize I can effort less, I can contract less, I can just let things release and open, including the abdomen, the lower back, definitely the shoulders. And to the other side, just pressing down. And then mainly just through your intention, arms cross a little bit and let them so cross in front, but swing out and away from you back. Cross in front, away from you behind. It's nice to alternate the cross. Just do that through intention. And we'll switch to the other side. So explore these arm swings as a real training, a real opportunity, even a personal challenge to let go. Let go, let go, and let go. How much can you release? How much can you not do? And a slight variation of this is we can have that cross more. So we're actually tapping our body, our shoulders with each swing. It's like you're patting yourself on the shoulder. Again, arms are completely passive and soft. Release the abdomen. And the other side. And let those arms just hang with gravity. Light horse stance. And sink into the hips. Minimize the force on the lower back. You probably want to watch for a moment to get a sense of this. And we'll let one arm dangle. Other arm is just kind of held or anchored either on your hip or your belt. Then over here, let the arm hang completely. And I just let the arm swing passively, releasing the shoulder joint. So whenever you're ready, you can approach this. Again, it's bending over, sinking down so you're not putting undue stress on the lower back, and just letting the arm
So one single arm swing sideways. So you're releasing the shoulder joint as well as the elbow joint, even the wrist joint. Breathe. And then switch, anchor that hand, let the other arm swing free. The weight is in your hips and legs. And just feel your elbow joint open and release, your shoulder joint let go. How much can you let that arm hang? How much can you let go? Then both arms swinging together like two pendulums. How free can you let that be? And then using your legs, you press into the ground to come up and down a few times. And again, the challenge is how much can you let those shoulders and arms go? Release the abdomen. Enjoy the releasing of those arms and shoulders. So you're not doing that with your arms. Free those arms, release those shoulder joints. The weight is through the hips and legs. And then staying up, letting those arms go, and then through pulsing into the ground, send the arms in one direction and a few in the other direction. Try to let those arms be soft, shoulders released. Letting go, releasing. And then lateral, that's pressing, simply pressing that leg and foot into the ground. You want to sit into the hip. And then you can turn a little further. You can come up on the ball of that back foot as you turn to face the side wall. You want to not lean, but sit into this hip. Sit into this hip. And make sure that knee is bent. Release the abdomen. And if you want, and you have the flexibility and you're warmed up, you can turn a bit more towards the back wall. Just make sure the knee that you're standing on is well bent. You sink into that hip. And gradually winding down. Feel the vibration that's in your body. Feel the nice hangingness, like water dripping off the body. This really does stimulate weight underside and a vibrancy. Both a settled weight, a weight underside, and also a vibrant openness. Shoulder width, and with a little bouncing, which is all happening from, again, the ground, pressing your weight in the ground, have that jiggle your arms so your hands and fingers just shake. So you're not doing it because of your arm muscles, it's just because of the rhythm of the bounce. And the bounce is really just a continuous dropping, just so you can feel those arms and especially wrists, hands, and fingers totally released. Very natural shaking from that rhythmical drop. Release the abdomen. Hang the tailbone so your lower back is virtually straight and open. And then same thing, but up here. Release abdomen. Okay, and 3 drops. And breathing in. Breathing out. Again. Okay. Light horse stance. Roll the elbows forward to the front corners. Aikido body position. Hang the hips. So it has to be a straightening, not going further, not a pelvic tilt, just so the lower back is virtually straight, tailbone pointing straight to the ground. Be careful not to tilt further than that. And looking in the mirror will be helpful. Make sure that that line is clean, good. As you drop those hips, just stretch the spine. Stretching of the spine pushes, rolls the elbows forward like gears. As the spine is open and stretched, it drives the elbows down and forward. And that action that's happening in the lower back, that stretching, lengthening, straightening, have that happen in the back of the neck. Another way of approaching that is the back crown of the head points straight up to the ceiling. So you're trying to touch the floor with your tailbone, you're trying to touch the ceiling with the back crown of the head. And that stretch, have that drive your elbows, roll your elbows forward. You're opening everything, stretching the entire fascia web. And the more you hang those hips, the more it pushes the elbows forward. The more you point the crown straight up to the ceiling, the more it opens the shoulder joints. And then it's just a matter of releasing more and more. Letting gravity pull the hip girdle down. That creates a stretch in the spine. Your intentional vector translates that stretch in the spine out through the shoulder blades, out through the shoulder joints. And then through a process of continuing to open up the shoulder joints, elbow joints, in other words, the process of lengthening, have that lengthening process move your arms to the side walls. And continue to try to roll your elbows out to the sides now. Continuing to try to roll your elbows out to the sides. Like you're trying to get your elbows to the side walls. You should feel it deep in the armpits and shoulder joints. That's activating, stretching the fascia and the connective tissue, the shoulder joints. And then imagine that gets only longer. They stretch out and that's driving them. It's like wheels, cables and wheels. Lengthening process out drives them to the front. Hang the hips more. And through lengthening, moves the arms up. So your elbows are pointing to the upper front corners. Imagine they're trying to reach the upper front corners. Release the abdomen. And lengthen further to cause more movement back to the side walls. Shoulders are down. Continue pressing and rolling the elbows down and out. Down and out to the sides. Release the abdomen, hang the hips. Lengthen the arms to get them moved to the front corners. Cross the wrists. Again, roll the elbows forward. That pulls the shoulders right down and opens the shoulder joints. Lengthen to get out to the sides again. Lengthen to go up, elbows pointing and streaming to the upper front corners. Pull the hips down, chin down a bit to lengthen the back of the neck. Front corners. Cross the other way. And then again, reestablish your intent to roll the elbows forward, forward, forward. Through lengthening, arms flow to the front again. Okay, inch your feet in, relax your arms. Notice and feel your body. Slowly come down. We're going to do some basic rollbacks. Not even switching the feet, because we want to keep this real simple so we can focus on continuing this process of opening up the body, opening up the joints, specifically the spine. So what I'd like you to do is, as you roll along your spine back and forward, have your awareness, your attention right on the spot that's touching the floor, right on the vertebrae that's touching the floor, and even more specific, the space between the two vertebrae as that spot touches the floor, and the pressure of the floor with your weight going through your body, through the vertebrae, through the space between the vertebrae, into the floor, your own weight will be enough to massage those joints open, those vertebrae open. So as I roll back, and so you want to start, of course, very slow. And if you do speed up, you want to try to stay with that very sharp awareness that you're tracking up and down along the spine, and that place where you're touching the floor, your weight's going into the floor, and the pressure against the floor, your weight is opening the space, opening the vertebrae. So try a few rollbacks where basically you're doing the rollbacks to massage your spine, massage open your spine, and the weight, if you stay released and open enough, will actually do the work to open up the space between each vertebrae, one vertebrae at a time. So see if you can track that. So half of that is how much are you willing to let go and release. And of course, the other half is how keen is your awareness, how sharp is your awareness? Can you place it as you roll along the vertebrae? Now, what I'd like you to do is we'll roll back, come up to a kneeling position. But I don't want you to come up, just like we talked about, don't use your arms. For example, arm swings. Arm swings, we don't use the arms, right? We don't do the arm swings with the arms. Arms are swung. We're gonna roll back, roll forward, come up on one knee. But as best you can, capture the feeling that you're not pulling yourself up. In fact, you're not coming up, but you are pushed up By what? By the conscious opening of the space between your vertebrae, or the conscious lengthening of your spine. At first, totally fake it till you make it. But as your awareness becomes keener, and as the mind-body connection develops, you literally can be sprung up by the conscious opening of the spine, lengthening of the spine. And then eventually you can get the pressure of the ground as the springboard that opens up your spine. So it's your intention, your awareness, your intention to open up the spine, and natural forces, connection and pressure from the floor that physically opens up your spine and springs you forward and up. So I roll back, I open up my spine, and to some degree or another, you'll be able to access you were sprung up rather than pulling yourself up. So try a few of those. Take your time. Open, lengthen your spine to pop you up. From the ground, just like we press the foot in the ground, press the leg in the ground to do the weight shift for us. Let your weight fall into the ground. Let your weight fall through your body. Let the ground push you up. And since the ground is pushing you up, you can direct that to open up your spine, lengthen up your spine. So a combination of the ground pushing you up and your opening of the spine, that combination can create a lot of force where you are brought up, you're sprung up, you're opened up. Now, see if you can continue that process to one degree or another to a full stand into a Hanmi. And continue to let that force inform your shape. In other words, continue to have that lengthen, straighten, and tallify your spine. Make your spine more long and tall. And then go all the way down from here. Have that opening process continue right into the standing. So you're opened up, lengthened, talled from the floor. So you're not having to pull yourself up, you're not having to push yourself up, not having to contract anything. It's a process of opening, releasing, being bounced up, propelled up by the pressure of the ground, opening up your joints, specifically your spine. And then have that reverberate through for a few moments through your Hanmi, your standing posture. Feel the remnants of that effect continuing to lengthen through your spine, creating that nice verticality, and continuing to reverberate and vibrate through your shoulder joints, arms, to inform the shape. Okay, now let's take this into basic showman strike. Carries much of these qualities, these essences, into driving the movement of what happens to be a showman strike. Press down through the back, hip and leg to lengthen the spine. And continuing to open up all the joints. Just take as much as you can into Showman Uchi. Release the abdomen. Weight underside. Other side as well. Take the same qualities and feelings into any and every movement. In this case, Showman Uchi. Perhaps notice a difference from the normal approach, which might be more contractive, more muscular. Try to notice how this feels different than usual. It's a different engineering. The switch sides, yokomen. Take your time to maintain the feeling and qualities. You might even imagine you're still rolling and bouncing off the floor, rolling, being pressed up off the floor. If you got some interesting sensations and experiences with that, imagine that's still going on. Notice your abdomen. Notice your lower back. Notice the back of the neck. Other side, yokomen. Really, before you move, don't just move. Don't move. Be moved. So take your time, wait, wait, wait until the qualities and feelings and principles move you. So don't just move into the movement that we're doing right now. Be willing to hang out there and not move. Let the intention and principles move you. And notice how that feels, the qualities. Okay, now we'll take this into a particular program of 7th Q. So again, that's going to be Sugiyashi with Showman Uchi from the front side, front arm. Let's do a few together. So try to have the same quality and feeling each. Ni. San. Do a few on your own. Take all the time in the world between each one. Don't move for moving's sake. Don't just move into the movement, because intellectually you know what the movement's supposed to be. Come from feeling. Come from organic feeling. Come from internal connection. Come from internal feeling, not movement for movement's sake. Okay, let's do the other side. Take a moment to hang out, qualify each. Neat. Enjoy the changes that you notice. On. Try a few more. Okay. Now let's do Ayumiashi Shomanuchi. So that will be from the back arm. So Ayumiashi Shomanuchi. Each. Eight. Try to keep the same quality and feeling in between. This is actually a really important training tool overall and generally. So in other words, whenever we're doing whatever drill, keep it going, keep the quality and principles going when you transition to coming back. At first, coming back in between, the transitions are a little break, a little rest period for the mind, not so much for the body. It's a rest period for the attention. But really, ultimately, you want to develop that just like weight training for the body. This is weight training for the mind. You want to keep the same quality, principles, and feelings, maintain them in transition. So doing the actual movement and coming back to the ready position is all the same training, all the same feeling. So eventually you want to have that continuous zanshin, that continuous mental field always on. So this so-called strike, this dramatic action, it's actually the same qualities, the same feelings, me simply coming back to Hami no Kamai. Feels exactly the same. Feels exactly the same. So all of you, you really want to start to do that level of training. So after your movement, you don't come back and set up. There is no end of the movement. Once you send the feelings streaming, send the qualities streaming, they're streaming. You keep them streaming. So when you finish the so-called movement, there's no difference between that and coming back to what's called a ready position or Hanmi. It's all the same. It's all streaming. It's all the same training. So that's what you want to start to be conscious of now. Not on, off, on, off. It's on even when you're simply standing, even when you're simply switching stance, even when you're simply transitioning. It's all on, physically, mentally, feeling-wise. Okay, so let's do miso-gi. Hang out, mind and breath, rest deep into the abdomen. Keep the joints open. Expanding open as you breathe in just reflects what's already going on in the joints and in the body. It's already open. Breathing out is a settling, a re-instigating of the weight underside. Reminding ourselves to settle, relax. Breathing in is just accentuating the opening and expansion that's already occurring. Breathing out is a reminder to settle. Eventually, both qualities are going on at the same time, even though it looks like one thing happens, then the other, just like I was saying with transitions. So actually, both qualities are happening at the same time eventually. Expanding, opening,